So I think this comment was in reference to artificial colors and food dye, but if it's not, I'm gonna blame the fact that I changed like 4 poopy diapers in the span of 1 hour this morning, and the fumes may have damaged my brain. To begin, for information about safety on food dyes, this is our most updated article. It analyzes many research studies, and it was published in 2020. In the past, many of the studies that assessed whether food dyes had any neurological effects on children were all based on subjective testing methods, i.e., people observing children to see if their behavior changed. The amount of bias and inaccuracy here was humongous! And one of the landmark studies was something called the Southampton study, which is this. And they basically thought food dyes caused an immune response, and even though the dyes did not cause ADHD, they could exacerbate symptoms. So regarding this study, the European Food Safety Authority basically said the results were clinically insignificant, not relevant, and that kids may have a sensitivity to a specific dye. This information couldn't be extrapolated to the general population, and when there were adverse effects due to poor testing methods, they couldn't be pinpointed to one specific chemical. So instead of using subjective testing methods, i.e. watching children to see if their behavior changed, this used brain scans. And none of these food dyes caused any change in brain activity except for erythrocene, which is red 3. Researchers did say that not only was the concentration of the red 3 used in the tests unclear, that the reliability was questionable as well, and most of this information was based on in vitro studies. But this still is being researched to see if it plays a role in altering genes that affect neurotransmitter function. So regarding food dye, does the US allow all of these dangerous food dyes that the EU has banned? No! This is where I got my information, and it's actually the opposite. 6 colors are allowed in both jurisdictions. There are 4 colors that are allowed in the US that are not allowed in the EU. There are 16 colors that are authorized in the EU that are not allowed in the US. And 9 of these are of synthetic origin. And whether it's synthetic really doesn't matter. So the EU is on the left, the US is on the right. The EU just labels things with E numbers. So red 3 is acceptable in both jurisdictions. Ta-da! So is red 40. They just call it Allura Red or E129. Right here you see blue 5 and green S. These are things that the United States does not allow. And we have a green 3 that the EU doesn't allow. But right above my head, those are the yellows. They're acceptable in both jurisdictions. Again, in the EU, they just have E names. And again, erythrocene red 3, also acceptable in both jurisdictions. The EU may also have some other labeling regulations that the United States may not have. But all in all, when people tell you Europe is so much better because they don't allow red 40 in food dyes, no, they just have different names. And now you can show them. Hope this helped.